One night, as Amara returned to her room, she found an envelope slipped under her door. She opened it, her heart pounding as she read the words scrawled in thick, bold letters. "Leave town now, or you will end up like others." The threat was clear, but instead of frightening her, it fueled her determination. How dare they try to scare her into silence? She had come too far to be intimidated now. Determined to confront Malik, Amara marched to his mansion the next day, hoping to rattle him just as he had tried to rattle her. When she arrived, the guards eyed her suspiciously, but let her through, recognizing her as someone Malik seemed interested in. Malik greeted her with a practiced smile, but she could not see a flicker of surprise in his eyes. She didn't waste time with pleasantries, instead stating boldly, "I know what you are, Malik, and I will make sure everyone knows too." Malik's expression darkened, his smile turning into sneer. "You are playing a dangerous game, Amara," he replied coldly. "This town's prosperity depends on sacrifices, and if you interfere, you will end up like all the others who'd have tried to stand against me." His words were laced with menace, but Amara stood firm, masking her fear with defiance. She turned and left, her heart racing, knowing full well that Malik would soon come after her, but she would be ready. After her encounter with Malik, Amara realized that she couldn't face him alone. She needed allies, people who had also suffered under his tyranny and who could also be brave enough to stand by her side. She recalled the older women at the market who had subtly warned her about Malik and decided to approach them. To her relief, they agreed to help, their own fear overridden by years of resentment and grief over the loss of loved ones. The women introduced Amara to a hidden network of townspeople who had been waiting for a chance to resist Malik's rule. Many of them had expressed loss, having had friends and family members disappeared mysteriously over the years. They were ordinary people who had been forced into silence, but now, with Amara leading them, they felt empowered. For the first time, they saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to end Malik's reign of terror. Together they formed a resistance group, meeting in secret to plan their next moves. Their goal was simple but dangerous: gather evidence of Malik's crimes, expose his society rituals, and bring his power to an end. Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose, fueled by the bravery of her newfound allies. She knew that the fight ahead would be perilous, but with these people by her side, she felt ready to face whatever Malik threw their way. Amara and her allies quickly set to work gathering evidence. They heard rumors of an abandoned building on the outskirts of a town, a place where strange rituals were said to occur. Late one night, Amara, Mama Ife, and a young man named Kunle ventured there, determined to see if the stories were true. The building was decayed and overgrown, shrouded in an eerie silence that seemed to echo with the weight of forgotten horrors. Inside, they discovered a hidden chamber marked with ancient symbols and strange carvings. In the center of the room was a stone altar, stained with what looked like dried blood. The sight of it made Amara's stomach turn, but she forced herself to focus, taking pictures and recording every details. Kunle, visibly shaking, captured photos, understanding that this evidence was crucial for their cause. This altar was proof that the society practiced dark rituals that demanded blood. Malik's control over the town was built on fear and dark rituals that he used to keep the people in line, feeding off their obedience and desperation. He was the head of a secretive society, one that demanded sacrifice to maintain the prosperity of the town. To them, prosperity came at a price: the life of a young woman, choosing to be a vessel for their twisted rights. Malik would lure unsuspecting young women from the poorer quarters of town, promising them work or financial support. Once they were in his grasp, they became his prey. These women would disappear without a trace, swallowed by Malik's insidious network in the depths of his mansion. He had hidden a chamber filled with ritualist tools, strange symbols, and ancient carvings that only his inner circle knew existed. After the killings, Malik would have his trusted followers mutilate the bodies, preserving certain parts of his rituals in his mind. Each part of the body had specific power. He would use the hearts as offerings, believing they contained the essence of the victim's spirit, and would grant him influence and authority over others. Certain organs were believed to bring prosperity and strength, and these were preserved with meticulous care, stored in onyx jars that lined the walls of his chamber. The most disturbing part of Malik's ritual was his use of the flesh. He had convinced his followers that consuming the parts of the flesh would transfer the vitality of the victims into them, prolonging their lives and maintaining their wealth. Malik's followers would buy these offerings, unaware they were consuming human flesh, or in some cases, willing to overlook the truth for the promises of prosperity. These ritualistic feasts were done in secret, further entrenching Malik's control, as those who participated became complicit with his crimes. Through these grotesque rituals, Malik wielded an almost supernatural hold over the town, cementing his status and power. It was a cycle of exploitation and horror, one that fed on the helplessness of the community and misplaced reverence for him. Malik's atrocities were a carefully guided secret, one that thrived in darkness. As they left, Amara's sense of dread deepened. She knew Malik's followers would discover that their sacred space had been invaded. They had gathered valuable evidence, but they were also stirring up a hornet's nest. With each new discovery, the danger increased, but so did Amara's resolve. She had seen enough to know that Malik's society needed to be stopped, and she was willing to put everything on the line to see justice served. The news of their findings quickly spread amongst Amara's allies, igniting a new wave of anger and determination. The townspeople, who had suffered in silence for long, were ready to fight back. They decided to hold a gathering in a secluded area outside town to discuss their next move. Amara addressed them, her voice steady, urging everyone to remain vigilant and prepared for whatever retaliation might come. Just as their spirits began to lift, a figure emerged from the shadows, one of Malik's enforcers. He wore a smug expression as he delivered Malik's message. Malik knows who you are, and he will not be merciful. The air grew tense, and fear rippled through the group. But Amara stepped forward, her face resolute. "Tell Malik that we are not afraid," she said firmly. "We are done living in fear. His time is up." The enforcer sneered, disappearing back into the night, leaving them with a lingering sense of foreboding. Despite the intimidation tactics, the townspeople's resolve did not waver. Amara felt a swell of pride in their bravery, but she also knew that Malik would retaliate. They had pushed him into a corner, and now they would have to brace themselves for the storm that was coming. The closer they got to exposing Malik, the more paranoid the group became. Fear started to fester within their ranks, and some members began to doubt whether they could truly stand against someone as powerful as Malik. The atmosphere was tense, and Amara could sense that not everyone was fully committed. They were afraid, and fear was a dangerous weapon Malik would easily exploit. One evening, Amara discovered that one of their own had been feeding information to Malik. She felt a profound sense of betrayal as she confronted the traitor, realizing how deeply Malik's influence ran in the town. The person's betrayal had compromised their safety, giving Malik a clear view of their plans and intention. But even as she felt the sting of treachery, Amara knew they couldn't afford to turn back now. Amara removed the traitor from their group, sending a clear message to anyone else considering disloyalty. She reminded her allies that they were fighting for their lives and the future of the town. With renewed determination, the group tightened their security, vowing not to let fear divide them. They had come too far to let Malik's manipulation destroy them from within. Malik's final warning came in the form of another disappearance. One of their most trusted allies, a young woman named Aishas, vanished without a trace. The group was devastated, knowing that this was Malik's way of reminding them of his power. Aishas had been one of their strongest supporters, and her sudden absence left a deep void. Amara felt her grief and rage intertwined, hardening her resolve. Aishas' disappearance sent ripples of fear through the group, but Amara urged them to press on. She reminded them that Malik's actions were meant to break their spirit, to make them question their own strength. But they could not allow his terror to stop them now. They owed it to Aishas and to every other person Malik had harmed to see this fight through the end. Determined to honor Aishas' memory, the people prepared for their final confrontation. They would not allow Malik to continue his reign of terror unchecked. Their stakes were higher than ever, and the town's future hung in the balance. Amara knew they were approaching the end game, and she vowed to make Malik pay for every life he had destroyed. Amara and her allies knew that their only chance to bring Malik down was to expose his ritual publicly. They planned to infiltrate his mansion during the next scheduled gathering of his inner circle. Rumor had it that this gathering would include a particular sinister ritual meant to reaffirm his power. With the help of Kunle and Mama Ife, Amara devised a plan to secretly capture footage of the ritual and broadcast it to the townspeople. On the night of the ritual, Amara and her allies slipped through the mansion's shadowed corridors, hearts pounding as they avoided guards. They finally found a concealed spot overlooking the room where Malik's followers had gathered. The air was thick with incense, and the chanting reverberated through the chamber. Amara's stomach turned as she saw Malik standing by the altar, dressed in a ceremonial robes, ready to perform his horrific ritual. As Malik raised his arms, Amara's allies started recording, capturing every gruesome details. They held their breath, fearing they might be discovered at any moment. But despite their fear, they felt a surge of determination, knowing that this footage was their best weapon against Malik. After capturing enough evidence, they slipped out of the mansion under the cover of darkness, ready to reveal the truth to the town. The next day, Amara's group began distributing the footage throughout the town, sharing it with people in markets, homes, and gathering places. Shock and horror spread like wildfire as the townspeople watched the recordings of Malik's ritual, finally seeing the truth behind his power. For years, Malik had hidden his crime under the guise of prosperity, but now his mask was slipping, revealing the true monster beneath. As people saw the footage, anger replaced fear. The townspeople who had once revered Malik were now filled with rage at the suffering he had inflicted upon them. Mothers who had lost their daughters, fathers who had buried their sons, and friends who had mourned loved ones gathered in the town square. Their voices rising in a unified cry for justice. Malik's grip on the town was finally breaking, and Amara's allies felt a renewed sense of hope as they saw the people rallying together. Amara addressed the town, urging them to hold Malik accountable and to never allow such evil to take root in their town again. She reminded them that they had the power to stand up for themselves, to protect their community, and to make sure that Malik's darkness would never return. With the people behind her, Amara knew that Malik's days of terrorizing the town were numbered. When Malik learned that his ritual had been exposed, he flew into a rage. His once loyal followers began to desert him. Realizing that their blind faith had led them into monstrous acts. Desperate to maintain control, Malik ordered his guides to silence anyone who spoke out against him. But the townspeople, now united, refused to be intimidated. They took to the streets, confronting Malik's enforcers and driving them back. Realizing that he was losing his grip, Malik retreated to his mansion, fortifying it in a last attempt to protect himself. Amara and her allies, joined by the townspeople, marched to the gates, determined to bring him to justice. They demanded that Malik surrender and face punishment for his crime. But Malik refused, spewing threats and curses from behind the locked doors. His arrogance had blinded him to the fact that his power was nothing without the people's loyalty. After hours of standoff, the townspeople broke down the gates, storming the mansion. Malik, cornered and stripped of his power, attempted to flee, but he was quickly captured by the townspeople. As he was dragged out, his once commanding presence was reduced to a pitiful figure, pleading for mercy from those he had terrorized for so long. Amara looked into his eyes, feeling a mixture of triumph and sorrow, knowing that justice was finally within reach. With Malik finally brought to justice, the town felt as though a heavy shadow had been lifted. The townspeople held a public trial, where they confronted Malik with evidence of his crime. He was sentenced to face the consequences of his action, bringing a sense of closure to those who had suffered. The people reclaimed their town, vowing to rebuild it as a place of safety and community, free from the darkness that Malik had imposed upon them. Amara, though weary from the long battle, felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had fulfilled her promise to Zainab and had brought justice to the countless lives lost to Malik's cruelty. As she walked through the streets, she was greeted with smiles and gratitude from those she had helped liberate. Amara knew that the scars of Malik's rule would take time to heal, but she was confident that the town would emerge stronger and more united. In the days that followed, Amara prepared to leave the town, knowing that her journey had come to an end. She left behind her journal, a record of everything that had transpired, so that the future generation would know the truth and remember the courage of those who stood up to tyranny. As she walked away, the sun rose over the town, casting its light on the people as they celebrated their newfound freedom. A new dawn had come, and with it, the promise of hope and resilience. The moral lesson of this story centers around the power of truth, courage, and unity in the face of oppression and evil. It shows how unchecked power, driven by greed and manipulation, can corrupt a community. However, even the darkest forces can be defeated when individuals choose to stand together, risking their own safety for justice and the welfare of others. Hello listeners, I did really appreciate it if after enjoying this story, you would take a moment to like and leave a comment. Your support means a lot and helps encourage me to keep sharing more stories. Please do well to like, share, and subscribe. And also don't forget to leave a comment. Thank you.